Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show. I welcome you whether you're watching on Rumble or on YouTube or listening via one of the many podcast platforms. This is episode 209. The show notes give you links to the foundational principles of this show and details about my background. They also give you links to my websites, charleskovess.com and kovess.com, where you will find many resources, free resources, that will help you to live the life of your dreams, to pursue your passion, to have ever-increasing self-awareness, to understand the self-awareness and passion principles. So let's go with this week's big idea, which is the challenge of work teams. And I've decided to discuss this topic because in the Australian newspaper this week, there's a big publication I'm holding up now for those of you who are listening on the podcast, Best Places to Work 2024. And this is an annual award, and they happen all around the world. And so what is a great place to work? And it's wonderful working in a great place to work. I've been running workshops in big companies, small companies for 31 years. And prior to that, as a lawyer, I worked for 20 years in good organizations. So I have a decent idea of what a great place to work is, and I've helped organizations create great places to work, and very successfully. Well, this is a good reminder to you of how do you create a great place to work, but also those same principles apply to charities, to sporting teams, to political teams, to family teams. So I will unpack the 6 key principles that are contained in the lead article, and then I've got a couple of books as resources that I think are very powerful to help you to do this. On the front page of the wraparound of the Best Places to Work 2024 is an article by Mark Price. Apparently he's Lord Mark Price, the founder of WorkL. I don't know what that means. However, it's a good summary of some really 6 key principles of how to be a great place to work. And those 6 are as follows: reward and recognition, information sharing, empowerment, well-being, a sense of pride, and job satisfaction. And I thought about these 6 and I thought, yeah, that's a good summary. If you get those 6 right, you are well on the way to having a great place to work, or a great team, a great group of human beings who could work well together as a team. So let's unpack this momentarily. I don't want to take too long, but I just want to remind you of these 6. I suggest that you write them down and check wherever you are working whether these 6 apply, and if not, where the big opportunities are for improvement. Now, what is really clear is that great places to work create better results than shitty places to work. Simple as that. Don't go, the financial rewards are better, all sorts of payoffs for being a great place to work. So reward and recognition. The rewards have to be fair. And, one of the issues around rewards is bosses are trying to screw their employees to minimize their pay. On the other hand, governments and trade unions and all sorts of, particularly in Australia, enterprise bargaining agreements with all sorts of complex awards give amazing overpayment, too much reward. The recognition side, recognition can make a massive difference. If you can't pay the biggest dollars, but there's wonderful recognition available, then those two can balance each other out. Now, the issue of recognition, depending on what sort of team you are in, it's the job of the boss to implement this recognition principle, but also these 6 principles. And in fact, the first sentence in this article is, I'm often asked what makes a best place to work. My answer is always the same, no matter where you work: having a great boss. And if it's another team, I'd say having a great leader. For 31 years, I've been teaching about passion. I've been running workshops, and I think the quality of leadership in Australia is quite pathetic. Why? Because the levels of passion in the workforce are very low, and it's the quality of leadership, it's the quality of bosses that determine the levels of passion. And when I say the boss, it could be the manager of a particular team. Great bosses build passion, bad bosses kill passion. Simple as that. Build passion, kill passion. So I totally agree with Mark Price that you can't have a great team if you've got a crappy leader, or you can't have a great work team if you've got a bad boss. So rewards and recognition, and the recognition can be as simple as a Mars bar given at a weekly team meeting. The other issue around team meetings is that they have to be frequent. And I often use lessons in sporting teams to underline what work teams have to do. Top world-class sporting teams, they are meeting and talking relentlessly, constantly, not this once a month, let's have a team meeting, and they're dealing with the real issues, the best teams. Of course, the teams that don't succeed, they're the ones that aren't dealing with the real issues. They talk, but they're not dealing with the real issues because the boss doesn't allow the real issues to be discussed. The second is information sharing. And in the 21st century, information is power, information is reward. And you will soon know whether you are on the inner circle or the outer circle on relevant information. So this question of, are you kept in the loop? And if you're not, it's not a great place to work. The third one, empowerment. Now, this question of empowerment is really quite a misleading one. People say, I'm not empowered to do something. My standing proposition is that you are a man, you are a woman, you are empowered. You don't need to be empowered. You can take action, whatever. You are free to take the action that you see needs to be done. Now, depending on the size of the organisation, small, medium, large, if you don't have any power to implement changes, that's okay. What you are empowered to do is to raise issues with your boss, with your manager, with the chairman of an organisation if it's a big company. You don't need some magical empowerment. But there are some leaders that squash you down and say you can't, all you can do is this. I'm going to share a quote with you from one of the resources this week, which is the book Leading the Revolution. And it's a powerful quote on this question of empowerment. But I urge you in all of the conversations you've heard me talk about, as a man, as a woman, you are free to take the action that you see needs to be done. You don't need to be anointed with empowerment. I urge you to choose to be empowered. If you get into trouble for taking responsibility to help your workplace or any other team be more successful, then that's a big clue that you've got a bad boss, and it could be a big clue for you to leave that environment. Number 4, well-being. Well, you know my views on well-being. It's mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. And there's this whole question about resilience. There's this whole question about snowflakes in the workplace. I know you can't speak the truth to people. And indeed, if you start talking to people about their poor quality of performance, they will pull the well-being card out. And what I urge you to do is to understand this important distinction between genuinely caring about the well-being of team members, of workers, mental, physical, and spiritual. On the other hand, not pandering to them to such a degree that your business gets destroyed. This is where self-awareness comes in, because if you have low self-awareness, you can't judge the quality of whether the people who are in the team, if you're a leader, if you've got low self-awareness, you are very poor you won't have the skills to make the judgment on what is appropriate care for well-being and what is what is literally destroying the business, worried about the mental health of workers. I think there's a lot of crap written about mental health. As I say, I've had 50 plus years in business, 31 years of running workshops, and there's always a complex story about the interactions of human beings, and they play the mental well-being card to screw a business because they're upset about other issues. So, it's a complex, difficult question because human beings are complex and difficult. And if being a great boss was easy, everybody could do it. No, they can't. That's why you have to do the self-awareness and passion quest. That's why you have to have people like me coming in to help unpack crap that exists in teams. Literally, I often describe myself as a mental laxative, right? A passion provocateur to clear constipated thinking. Number 5, a sense of pride. A sense of pride in what you do. It's this question of this commitment to excellence. And if you are in a workplace where quality doesn't matter, where customer opinions about what you're doing doesn't matter, or a dental practice where the dental practice owner doesn't care what the patients think, you don't have any pride in it. You don't talk about your workplace. It's literally a place where you're just getting money. And so the job of the boss is to say, gosh, what would make my employees proud? And you ask them that question. Do you tell people where you work? Do you say to them what a fantastic place this is to work? Are you proud of it? If you're not, why not? And the last one, job satisfaction. Now, this is an interesting question, like job satisfaction, great place to work. It's such a sort of, it's an all-encompassing issue. But what Mark Price is saying is, if what you're having to do doesn't satisfy you, how can I, as the boss, change it so that it does satisfy you? And the job of the boss is to keep looking for these ways to create that job satisfaction. One example of that, and this is a never-ending job. If you do something good for an employee or a team, for example, in a workplace, you get them a fantastic coffee making machine. They get excited, it gives them satisfaction. They're excited by it. 3 months later, the coffee machine is the norm. And then they're complaining about something else. They're not satisfied because of something else. Well, just accept that that's the human condition. And then the job of the boss is to keep driving this level of job satisfaction because we all get used to it. And, I've got a whole bunch of ways in which you can increase job satisfaction that doesn't cost money. And it also requires the boss putting onto the team members responsibility. Well, if you haven't got sufficient job satisfaction, I want you to have great job satisfaction. So tell me what you would like to change. Now, even over the past week, Julie and I ran a workshop on this question of ways to improve a workplace. People have what I call brain farts. They throw these suggestions out to the boss, and then they just expect the boss to implement it. And then if they don't implement it, then they complain to their colleagues and to people outside the company. Nothing ever changes in this place. Well, what I say is ask your team members for suggestions on how to make work more satisfying. And then secondly, ask them to put a written proposal together with the benefits and the drawbacks of the changes that are required to implement those steps to increase job satisfaction. It's a process. It's as complex as being the coach of a women's soccer team, a women's water polo team, like the Australian women's water polo team, of which I was a member, of an AFL football team, of UK Premier League soccer. It's a whole bunch of moving parts. So these six ways to make a great place to work are an excellent framework for you to think about. And what I say to you is that these 6 principles apply to all teams, whether they be in politics, whether they be freedom fighting groups, whether they be new community groups that are being formed to be able to go off grid. And I urge you to think about that possibility, because I have no confidence in the globalist agenda that what we're experiencing now in life will continue. So you create these new community groups. And then I've been involved in advice on some of these community groups. Hey, they break apart very quickly. And that's because the leaders don't have the key principles to enable them to, or they've never learned these key principles of how do you get a community group to work well together. And as I said at the start, you must have good leadership. I know of no group that's ever succeeded well without good leadership. This also applies to sporting teams. It applies to schools. It applies to charities. So the 6, I'll read them out again. Reward and recognition. And in a community group, you can have reward and recognition. So many clever ways that you can do that. Second is information sharing. The third is empowerment. The fourth is well-being. The fifth is a sense of pride. And the sixth is job satisfaction. Think about that. Have them on your wall to check if you're a manager of a team, if you're a leader of a team, of how you make that happen. And if you're a team member and you'd like this to be happening, then share this episode with your boss and say, hey, I think we could learn something from these ideas. Now, the 2 resources this week are from 2 wonderful books. The first book, both published by Harvard Business School Press. The principles that they talk about, whilst these books are over 20 years old, they're fantastic, beautifully written books. One by Jeffrey Pfeffer, The Human Equation, Building Profits by Putting People First. Now, you hear that talk happening, but the evidence is overwhelming. If you treat people like crap, your profits will be crap. So The Human Equation, Jeffrey Pfeffer, Pfeffer. And then the second book, I'm going to read a quote from this, is by Gary Hamel, Leading the Revolution. And I've quoted often in my workshops from Gary Hamel, and this ties into the empowerment issue. You know, do you need to be empowered? And Gary Hamel says we've got to have a revolution to improve the way businesses are run. And so at the last page of this book, Gary Hamel poses this question: are you a revolutionary? Just listen to these beautiful words. It doesn't matter whether you're the big cheese or a cubicle rat. You know what a cubicle rat is, don't you? It ties into Dilbert and Scott Adams' wonderful series of cartoons on consultants in big companies, you know, sitting in a cubicle. It doesn't matter whether you're the big cheese or a cubicle rat. It doesn't matter whether you fly in a Gulfstream 5 or ride the Crosstown bus. It doesn't matter whether you command a legion of minions or only your iPhone. He's got Palm Pilot here, but I'm saying iPhone. That's how old this book is. 2000 was published. All that matters is whether you care enough to start from where you are. So ask yourself, do you care enough about your integrity to speak the truth and challenge the little lies that jeopardize your company's future? Do you care enough about the future to argue with precedent and stick a thumb in the eye of tradition? Do you care enough about your colleagues to help them get off the treadmill of progress? Do you care so much about the magnificent difference you can make in this world that you're willing to try and change it with your bare heart? Do you care enough about finding meaning and significance in the 80% of your life you devote to work that you're ready to start a movement within your company? Do you care enough about the creative impulse that resides in every human breast that you're ready to help everyone be a revolutionary? Do you care enough about doing something so wonderful and unexpected for customers that you're willing to put your comfy job on the line? Go ahead, ask yourself, do you care enough to lead the revolution? And let me promise you, that caring comes from your passion. And if you don't care enough, don't give your life away doing a shitty job where you aren't properly rewarded for giving your heart to the organization. All right, last couple of thoughts. No show on TNT Radio this week and for a few weeks because TNT Radio is not broadcasting on weekends. And let me just assure you that that's not because of the quality of the product, but because of corporate issues. I'll put it that way. The corporate issues often cause difficulties for companies, And I'm confident that what's been created, how TNT radio has been built over the last 2.5 years, it's going to be burst into an extraordinary global impact, and it's going through some challenging, let me say, issues that will be resolved that are nothing to do with the quality of what TNT.news enables you to experience. However, let me assure you that during the week, Monday to Friday, TNT is operating as usual. Please support it. Please take an interest in it. If you want to discuss TNT with me, please contact me. I love TNT and I see a big future for it. So I hope today's show makes a beneficial difference to your life, that it inspires you to live life on your terms, to make your life all that you are capable of making of it. This show is about helping you increase your self-awareness and to live with passion. When you live with self-awareness and you pursue your passion, this game of life is an extraordinary experience regardless of the challenges that you face. Embrace those challenges. Choose to enjoy what you are doing. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye.